Welcome to Journalist Debrief with Premium Times. My name is Esther Adaji. Our focus today is on floods and dams. Our reporter, Abdulkareem Mojeed, was on the field and he had the experience firsthand. Abdulkareem, can you tell us, you were there, you saw what happened. Tell us your experience on the field.
Thank you so much, Esther, for having me. The Maiduguri flood disaster you talk about, I think it all happened on September 10, to be precise. So over half of Maiduguri metropolis got, flooded. And authorities, from reports reviewed before traveling to Maiduguri, was pointing to the fact that Alao Dam collapsed, that, that the flooding of Maiduguri was largely as a result of the collapse of the dam. So, on traveling to Maiduguri, it's obvious, although the water had receded significantly, but when you get there, you see the destruction that the water left behind, the footprints of, the flooded areas and all of that was so pronounced that you can't ignore such. And several areas, several sectors, businesses, farmlands, and all of that were badly affected as a result of the deluge. But this is not the first time we are experiencing flooding in Nigeria. I started covering issue of flooding in 2022 when we had over 26 of Nigeria's 36 states, was submerged. This year, by the record, on NEMA's, the National Emergency Management Agency's dashboard, it shows that I think about 31 of Nigeria's 36 states, were affected by flooding this year. And the impact on lives and livelihood is so significant. So taking it back to Maiduguri, for instance, we know that Maiduguri has been riddled by the over a decade-long, Boko Haram insurgency, and already they have humanitarian crisis there. So it's more like a triple or let's say double or triple whammy, when the flood came. This is a state that is just recovering from the aftermath of the Boko Haram insurgency. And we still have insecurity issues lingering with people unable to access their farmland, businesses just trying to, come back and all of that. Then the flood struck. So the impact was profound, to be honest. The health sector was badly hit. The hospitals were shut down. Several hospitals were affected. Infrastructures worth billions of naira were destroyed. Wow. In fact, there's a particular community I got to, and it was like they threw grenade. To that point, they call for you need to see people where residents were stranded, many were trapped. Then you now go to some of the IDP camps, the internally displaced people's camp, and you see people struggling, to get food and all of that. But of course, I think the responses from both international organizations, NGOs, the government was quite impressive. Generally, I think the flood incident in Maiduguri, it's something that generated a lot of, questions, concerns from people, from citizens who feel, what actually went wrong?
Speaking about questions, right? In your report, it was stated that the dam was having some cracks and some, it was not good, it was not fit. But few days to the flood, a group of people came and said it was good. They gave it a good mark, that the dam was good. Can you speak more about that?
So, actually, based on some of these speculations when we go there, because in journalism, you can't just base your reporting on them say, you say. So, I went to Maiduguri alongside with my colleague, Kabir. So we tried to visit the dam area. So the dam is located in a community they call the Alao community, and they call that place Lao Jerry community.
Okay.
So we discovered that residents of that community are largely into farming, and also most are fishermen. That's what they do. And most of them, from research, shows that there are people who were relocated to that community, as a result of the Boko Haram, insurgency and all of that. And it was also obvious. Before you get to the community, you see several checkpoints of the military, checking who is going there and all of that. So when we get there, that's the community that hosts the dam. So the dam, we saw a part of the dam as separated from the hole. There are several cracks and leakages on the dam. And from interviews with residents and all of that, they said they have been calling on the government to fix the dam and probably create more embankment to reduce the flow of water, because just adjacent the settlement, the Lao Jerry settlement, you see the big river, they call the River Ngada, flowing through. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So the path where the Lao Jerry Dam is situated is actually the path, is like, I will call it the tributary from the river that flows into Maiduguri, because the settlement is about, I think, less than 25 kilometers away from the Maiduguri city itself. So, but the water from the Ngada River flows through this path, and it is through that path that the Alao Dam was built. So a part of the dam has actually separated from the whole, making it not to function the way it should function, as a dam. But that notwithstanding, since the volume of rainfall has increased, which eventually, led to the increase in the volume of the river Ngada flowing through there. So automatically, there is a need for improvement of the dam structure, if it is to increase it and all of that. So from a review of the situation there, it shows that when the water came, the pressure, it actually, instead of passing through the dam, it creates another path. So forcing more volume of water into the Maiduguri metropolis. So many of the residents in Lao Jerry community complained to have lost, family members. Many of them lost their farmlands. And the unfortunate thing is that some of them, they are just about to harvest from their farm.
Yeah, I saw that in your report. I was going to go there.
They are just about to harvest, and most of them, aside from fishing, they grow crops like, onions, millet, sorghum, maize, and all of that. So the presence of the river there helps them to irrigate their farmland. Just like the way Nigeria is structured, the rainfall pattern across the 6 geopolitical zones varies. For Maiduguri in the northeastern part, so they are characterized by reduced volume of rainfall. So now that they are having rainfall, some of them will want to also leverage on the presence of rivers like that.
Yeah.
Whenever they have reduced volume of rainfall, they can easily irrigate their farmland, because crops need water for them to thrive and blossom. So in such instances, you don't get to blame some of the farmers. Why would they even farm along, the river bank? Because there is a particular farmer that we interviewed, and he said he lost over 4 hectares of his farmland. The green field suddenly disappeared before his eyes. He was devastated, he lost his wife to that deluge himself. And there's another farmer that claimed, he said he borrowed 1.4 million in order to leverage on, the significant hike in the prices of food, that when it's harvest season, he's going to make more money for himself, but he lost everything. Not even a grain was he able to, pick out from the farm. So the impact, it's massive, especially coming at a time where we know that the food inflation in the country, it's disturbing. And this region, there are places where we know that when they grow maize, they grow sorghum, they grow millet, onion, some of these vegetables, people in the southern part of the country depend on them because they bring some of these things.
Yeah, so who is to blame for this? Is it the federal government?
So, when the disaster happened, I know the governor of the state, Babangana Zulum, was saying that the dam has been left, unmaintained for long.
Yeah.
So definitely the blame is on them, the Ministry of Water Resources. We know, learning from what happened in 2022, we did some critical, reporting, reviewing the cases. Why is it that we have serious flooding? Yes, the rainfall pattern has changed significantly, but it is believed that if the government is able to at least play their role by making sure that we have the necessary infrastructures in place, we'll be able to curb the damages. The damage won't be this massive. So before every rain, in Nigeria we have 3, I think, agencies who review the rainfall pattern, the risk assessment, and also helps to dish out precautions every year at the first quarter of every year. Like the NIMET, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, will tell us the weather forecast, for how long are we going to have rainfall, dry spell, when is it setting in, a sort of advisory to their seasonal climate, prediction report. And they did that this year. We have then, when they release this report, the likes of the Nigeria Hydrological Agency, domiciled under the Ministry of Water Resources, they pick this report and also release their own annual rainfall, pattern prediction or something report. Then NEMA will pick this report to also analyze the risk based on some of the predictions from NEMA and from NIMET and also the NISA, So when they analyze this risk, they also bring out their own report to advise people that, okay, look, these areas are prone to flooding and all of that. These and these are some of the things that we need to put in place in order to reduce the disaster that may come from the flood incident. But most times, they do all of this fantastic work, but when they advise, we don't heed to the advice. That's why we incur lots of damages whenever, because it is, if we are able to at least put in place some of the recommendations from this agency and we are able to do them effectively and efficiently, I feel the impact of flooding will be reduced in Nigeria. You travel across states, our drainages are clogged, restricting the flow of water. Whenever
we see that in Abuja as well.
Yes, even the Federal Capital Territory is not,
Okay, so we are going on a break now. When we return, we'll talk more about the floods in Maiduguri. Thank you. Welcome back from the break. We'll be talking about the steps that the Nigerian government has taken to control flooding in Nigeria. So Abdulkareem, can you tell us the steps that the government are taking to stop the flooding situation happening in the country?
Yeah, I think I may not be able to give you details of the ongoing effort, but I understand that during the president's recent broadcast, I think when we were commemorating our Independence Day on October 1st, the president requests that integrity tests, be done on all dams in the country.
Yeah.
Following the Maiduguri incident, he directed that all relevant agencies, and the Ministry of Water Resources.
Yeah.
I think a committee has also been established to oversee the president's, directive. So if that is done, for me, I think it will go a long way. But we know that, for instance, anytime they are saying that they want to release this Lagdo Dam from Cameroon, the fear in the minds of people, and even also residents within
Kogi State,
down the Niger, the River Benue, river that flows through different parts in the country. You see that fear. And there has been, experts has been advising that there's a need to dredge, rivers, to dredge the tributary, because most of these waterways are silted. So I wouldn't know if that's also in the plan, for the government to do, because I feel also that if some of these things are done, the flow of water into communities, cities, will reduce whenever there is increased volume of rainfall, because I feel some of the waterways are unable to really accommodate the volume of water that comes because they are silted. So there's a need to desilt this river. And also I feel there's a need for us to try to see how to harvest excess water. Now we are entering the dry season. This water that we saw in abundance will suddenly disappear. And then farmers, you see, in the northern part of the country where we have extreme, weather events like, the drought and all of that, will now be scrambling to get water for them to carry out agricultural activities. We are supposed to be able to carry out agricultural activities all year round. But most of our agricultural, production is
during the raining season.
Do you get it? So what happened during the dry season when the water has reduced? Can we install some of the, at least water harvesting technologies as done in maybe advanced countries? Can we just learn from them and then replicate such back home?
Does climate change have a role to play in all this?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that we know the impact of climate change is real.
Yeah.
I remember a time when I was engaging with cocoa farmers to show how the change in rainfall pattern has affected production. We know cocoa is a major commodity that we produce. And you see them giving you account of when they were expecting rainfall, they don't get to see rainfall. And because crop, they're seasonal. The moment there's a disruption, maybe when it's flowering stage or this or so stage, and then when they need water for them to be able to carry out that processes, then there's no water. What happened? They die off. Or the production output is likely going to reduce. I remember there was a time also in the country, I think around August, where there was no rainfall all through.
Yeah. And
imagine that's the time where some people who had planted maize, a major commodity that we use, for the benefit of we humans and even for livestock, the livestock sector.
Yeah.
We saw the impact that had on farmers. Most farmers lost their crop. People who had planted rice, some dried up. These have resultant effect on the final output that we have. These are weather conditions, and if when it continues for over, there are changes that some people are saying that they've not seen in a decade. I spoke to aged farmers who are telling me that yes, there's been, they've experienced a lot of changes so you can attribute that to climate change. But on the other side, where I said no, is the fact that we feel that there are some adaptation infrastructure that government also need to put in place on their own part. and even we as citizens, our attitude towards the environment, unsustainable environmental practices, dumping of refuges along, drainage paths, are also contributing to it. So a situation, you see someone, you just take refuse from your house and you go and dump it on the drainage, on the drain. They reduce, restrict the flow of water whenever there's rainfall, because it clogs, these drainages. And when water does not get away to go, what it does, it spills, into where, So I think we need to be intentional about waste management in the country. You move around, even in Abuja, you see people dumping waste haphazardly. Aside from maybe clogging the environment, you also know the health implication of some of these. So I think there is a need to step up effort in this regard across states. In Maiduguri, aside from the dam collapse, I took a tour, around the city, and you see that most of the drainages are blocked. We need to evacuate, the sand, the debris, and provide adequate, waste disposing, measures or whatever system and the likes there across our respective state. So we should not also leave all the responsibilities for the federal government. State government should also be deliberate about environmental sustainability in their respective states.
Local governments as well.
Local government, of course. If the state government take it as they are able to scale up effort to ensure environmental remediation effort and all of that, people will take things seriously down the grassroots. We know that the issue of flooding and all of that hits people in the rural community the most. But are we also able to increase awareness, sensitization before rainy season comes, and also take effort in this regard? People who have been given money to maybe do projects, ecological funds and all of that, let those funds be used for the right thing. Otherwise, we'll only be shouting whenever there's flooding.
And it keeps happening year in, year out.
The proactive steps that need to be taken. I think there's a need for us to try to make sure that we get things done when